Welcome everybody. Okay, it's working. Yes, welcome. It's 5 after. Let's get started. Welcome, September meeting, Holland Bee Club. Another fantastic meeting set up for you. Okay, a couple of announcements, always announcements, right? That's how we always start. Our next meeting is October 9. That's about a month from here. And we will have Megan from the Northern Bee Network talking about raising northern queens, northern bees. Should be a good presentation. She's from the other side of the state, but she serves all of us. And we've said before that to sustain the beekeeping industry, we want to get as much northern stock as we can into our bees. And so we'll look forward to some of the things she's going to talk about. So that's next month, October 9. Also in October, the state organization, the Michigan Beekeeping Association, has its annual fall meeting. That will be the last weekend of the month in October. It's over there in Flint. If you'd like to go to that, that's always worthwhile. I would suggest you access the state website, which is michiganbees.org. All of the details are on there. Two-day conference. Each day stands independently by itself. You can go to one or both and enjoy that meeting. Good speaker, breakout sessions is worth going to. That's over there in Flint. It's a little bit of a ride for us, of course, to get over there. Just a reminder that we as a board meet every month before this meeting starts. We meet at 4 o'clock. And just a reminder that you are invited to sit in on those meetings anytime you want to know what's going on in your bee club. And it's just good to remind you that that is available to you if you'd like to sit and listen. We had a couple of people there tonight just doing that, and that's great to see that. What else? We have some special people to notice and recognize tonight. There is a bee club at Aquinas College in Grand Rapids. And it's brand new, started this year under the leadership of Jamie, who's attended our bee school last spring. And would you remember, stand up? I see there are 3 of you now. This is the Aquinas Bee Club from Aquinas College. And we've offered them our full support, so anything you can do to support these guys. They're looking for speakers, they're looking for free equipment, they're looking for guidance and mentors and money. Anything you want to give that to them, they'd love to have it. So welcome guys, good to have you here. And we hope to see you again. We're also videotaping tonight. We're videotaping the presentation that happens inside, and we're videotaping the presentation that's happening outside. These we hope to have up on our website so that if you want to review them after you've seen them tonight and want to look at it again and say, what did they say? It should be on our website real soon, right, Connie? About a week turnaround or whatever, if things go right. So we're assuming that they will. So I think that's it for me, unless somebody wants to add something to it. Okay, well the meeting tonight we're going to do in 2 parts. The first part will be inside. We'll start talking about some theory. You can see the list of things up on the board that we're going to be indicating. We'll talk about some theory about winterizing, and then we'll have 3 people talking about the practical part of what that is all about. So we'll say this is what you ought to do, and then we'll have a couple folks saying this is how you do it. And so we'll have that good combination. And then the second thing we're going to do is outside. Randy, one of our board members, is going to be making candy blocks. Candy block, we'll find out later, is a block of sugar that you put inside the hive to keep the bees alive through the winter time. And there's a couple tricks to making those things. And Randy will be outside making them tonight, a live demonstration, so you can actually see it being done and know how you should go about that. So that's our meeting for tonight. Any questions or anything? I have one before we get started. I see new faces here tonight. If you are brand new to beekeeping or they're brand new to this meeting, would you raise your hand and say you're a first-timer? Yeah, we've got quite a few of you. Welcome. If you've been here 10 times before, raise your hand. Yeah, we got some of them too. So those are experienced beekeepers. They're not old-timers. They're just experienced. So, okay, well, let's get started here. I'm going to try to work without the mic, and if it doesn't work for the back row, would you let me know? But we have 4 speakers, and each of us tells us that we're like to wander around, so we'll see how this works. I put together here a whole list of things that you might consider having for overwintering. It looks like a weird list, doesn't it? Why would you want things like marshmallows or powdered sugar or gloves or things like that? It seems like an unusual list. The point of what I'm going to talk about in these first couple of minutes is that you need to create a system for yourself that works for yourself. So the list of things that I have up there covers everything that people have tried. I don't know if I have straw up there, we could even add that. So you pick and choose the things that will work for you. Your system is probably going to be different from my system. Yours will work, mine won't. And so pick out something that works and stick with it from what we talk about tonight. There are 4 main components to overwintering success. The first one is to start with good, strong, healthy bees. You need to give them plenty of food. You need to give them a warm, dry, secure environment. And you need to give them a system that works for you. Put these 4 things together into your overwintering system, and you'll have a very good chance of being successful at this. Let's look at each one of these in turn. Good fall bees mean good winter bees. And good winter bees create good spring bees. And good spring bees make good summer bees. And good summer bees make good fall bees. So you see the big circle going around. The point of this is that you need good, strong bees right now that are healthy, that can raise the bees that you need to have next March and April when things start to pop and blooms come out again. What problems might you run into this time of the year? One of the biggest ones that you need to be concerned about is the varroa mite. Their populations continue to increase this time of the year as the other bee population decreases a little bit. So I don't know if you necessarily have more mites, it's a higher percentage of mites. So you want to deal with those guys somehow. Do a test, see if you have them in there, and then do some preventive medicating to get rid of them. There are a couple of ways that you can discover if you have a problem with varroa mites, things called a drop board or ether row or some chemical testing or sugar shake. If you're not sure what one of these are, it takes more time to talk about them than we really have in these couple of minutes that I have. Google those things and you'll get some good information on how to do that. So, but check definitely to see if you have varroa. The 5% is the threshold, so if you have more than 5 mites per 100 bees in your test, that means you better treat, you better medicate in some way to get rid of the mites because you have too many. Treatment can be the powdered sugar technique with the screen bottom board where you shake the powdered sugar on your brood chambers and falls through. You recall that the mites have little suction cups for feet, and so if you fill those little suction cups up with powdered sugar, they can't hang on to bees. They fall through the screen to the ground and you got rid of them. You have to do that about twice a week for 3 weeks really to get rid of them, to interrupt their brood cycle. So that's a good non-chemical way of treating mites. It does work, it's labor intensive, but it is a way of approaching it. If you don't want to do that, if you want to go a faster method, you can use Apiguard, Flamon foil tray, or check mite. I think there's a third one. You can get these from the chemical companies. Dadon has them, or Man Lake, or Russian Mouth will carry them. If you actually want to put those chemicals into the hive, and that does work. And I think Chuck does use some of these. So, and something a little stronger, formic acid, might away too, and so on. Another problem that you see more in the springtime than this time of the year is nosema, it's dysentery, it's diarrhea. If you have a lot of fecal waste in your hives, that's a problem to look at and possibly treat. Probably not this time of the year, so not to worry about it unless you really see it. There are 2 types. The one that's been around for a long time is called nosema apis, and that's been treated, well, the new one is nosema ceranae. Lots of brown stuff, especially with the apis. It's bee poop is what it is on the top of your frames and whatnot. That's how you identify the apis variety, and the colony fails rapidly. And this failed. Okay. It is a good idea to use Fumagellin V in your sugar water. We'll talk a little bit about feeding them sugar water. Fumagellin V is a good additive to put into your sugar water Because when the bees take the sugar water and store it for the winter, they also take the medicine. And so it's there all season, all winter. As they feed themselves, they are feeding themselves this treatment against dysentery, against the nosema. So it's a good way to go. Again, you can eat that through Daedon or one of those people. Add that to your sugar water as you're feeding the bees in the fall. And there's that monster called the small hive beetle. He's just a stinky little bugger if you get him. You identify that they're just a tiny little black bug, and you've probably seen them, but if you take the cover off your hive, they're quite often running around on top of the inner cover. That's where I usually see them first. And I don't like that, and one of our favorite sounds is squish, when you put your thumb on and squish them. If they become a problem, you'll see the evidence down in the bottom of the comb because they lay their egg and it's about a 3-day gestation period. So they hatch in a big hurry. And the larva runs around making a black ooze out of the bottom of your frames, of your wax. And it's smelly and oozy, and the bees hate it, and the bees will leave. And there's not much you can do except cut it out and throw it away. I mean, it's just that kind of thing. You can't save the comb. You might save the top half, but a couple of times I've had it, I just threw the whole comb away and said, we don't need this one. The larva for the small hive beetle looks like it has its pairs of legs on the front end. I mention that because there's another larva that gets in there from the wax moth. And you've seen wax worms, and they're just little white worms that crawl around. They're not nearly as destructive initially as the small hive beetle larva is, but they crawl differently. The small hive beetle's got the legs on the front end. Look for that, and if that's an issue that you have, you need to treat that if it's not too far gone before it becomes too far gone. And there's one more push here. There are commercial beetle traps. There's an oil tray where the larva will fall into, but this time of the year I go to checkmate strip or something like that from the chemical companies, get it in there and knock them out. I'm a chemical-free beekeeper as much as I possibly can be. At this time of the year, I'm inclined to cheat a little bit if the bugs are going to overcome my bee population. I'd rather use that strip and spend that $1 or $2 to buy a package next spring, replace it. So that's something you can do, and if you've got them in the soil, you can go that last step as well. Okay, that comes before it's supposed to. Plenty of food. You have to have lots of food for these guys over the winter time. We recommend 2 deeps of honey for sure. 2.5 if you can do it, which would be 2 deeps and 1 medium. They need lots of food to get through the winter time. And if they don't have that much food, then it's a good idea to feed them. I think we got to get good summer honey, pollen for the babies, and the sugar water. Sugar water we'll talk about first. In the fall, you mix it 2 to 1, 2 cups of sugar to 1 cup of water, because 1 to 1 stimulates brood rearing. You don't necessarily want that this time of the year. You want them to take the sugar water, get it to the cells, and distill it. So the 2 to 1 ratio this time of year is much better. 2 cups of sugar to 1 cup of water, and so on. It's also good to put a pollen patty in there to last minute, so they've got something to work on next spring, and a good supply of summer honey, which is easier for the bees to digest than perhaps some of the goldenrod that's coming in right now. Fondant is also a thing that you can put in there. That's the same thing you ladies put on top of cakes and stuff like that. Fondant frosting is another good thing. The hard candy is something that Randy's going to make a little bit later for us, the sugar blocks. And they can save the day when the winter stores run low. Bees go up. They don't go sideways. They go up unless they've got a really warm day, and then they can sneak sideways a little bit. So if they get to the top of the hive, oh, there's the cover, and they ran out of honey. Having a sugar block up there often saves the day because they can eat that sugar block then, get a little bit of moisture out of it if they need it, and survive. But if they're going to just run out of honey, you can see where that extra food would be good. We need a January thaw, we need a February thaw so that the bees can get out, take a cleansing flight, come back in and reconvene around the food supply. That's why we like winter, January thaws and February thaws. having that extra supply of food there helps them over that hump. You put that on in December, late in the season, or January if you can. That way, wherever the bees are in the hive, they can find it. And it utilizes the natural hive moisture to melt that sugar or water a little bit and make it digestible. You can put that sugar block under the lid, and that's the way we'll show you tonight or talk about tonight. Or you can break it up as pieces of candy and put it around the top of the frames if you want to do it that way. Warm, dry, secure environment is the third thing that the bees need to have. They need to be warm, they need to be dry. Dry is the big thing here. Cold doesn't kill bees, moisture does. So if you can keep those guys dry, you've got 90% of the battle right there. So we'll talk about some ways of doing that, but dry is good. The outside of the hive, bottom board. Bottom boards are reversible. And they have a 3/4 inch side and a smaller side. We usually put the smaller side up for the winter. Keeps the varmints out, the bugs out, the mice out, that kind of thing. So you can flip your board, or you can put a little bit of a blockage in there. Make sure you tilt it a little bit so if any water does get into, the water will run out instead of staying in there. Put a mouse guard on it to keep the mice out, get it off the ground so it's dry. Front door, reduce that entrance a little bit, put a mouse guard in place. Supers, keep the bugs off, the mice off, extra, what was I thinking there that one? It's been a day or two since I put this together. The roof, rocket man. It gets pretty windy in the wintertime. Put a rock or stone or a brick, something on top so the top doesn't blow up. It's kind of disconcerting to walk out there in the middle of winter and see that you got the top is missing, the inner cover's off, and they're enjoying the fresh snowfall just as you are. It's very hard on the bees. It doesn't always kill them, but it's hard on the bees. So make sure you anchor that in such a way. Chuck's going to talk a little bit about wind guard, I think, and that's a good discussion to do. The other thing is we talked about the need to get moisture out. And if you put that top cover on tight, there's no way for that moisture to get out. So what we recommend is that you tilt that cover just a little bit. I'm saying a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, just a little bit so that the moisture can flow out and the water can flow off the top of the roof. Much better, much greater survival rate if you do that kind of thing. Stick a clothespin underneath there or a stick or something just to prop that lid up just a little bit. Location. Sometimes you have to service your bees in the middle of the winter. And if they're out in the farmer's field in the summertime, that's great. You can drive up to it, no problem. Wintertime is a different story. So you have to be able to get to them, to feed them possibly, or to clean the snow away, whatever you want to do. When you put your bees into winter location, make sure you can get at it so you can work on it. The other thing we talk about is someplace that's protected from the wind. And the illustration I like to give with this is, when I go to a football game, it's 50 degrees outside, I can wear a sweatshirt and it's pretty good. If it's 50 degrees outside with a wind, I'm kind of cold in a sweatshirt. Same thing with the bees. If you can stop that wind from flowing against that hive and blowing out some of the heat that they have inside, how much better for the bees that is. So whether you actually wrap them or simply protect them by putting them in a good location, stopping the wind flow is a good idea if you can do that. If you have a screened bottom board, make sure the bottom screen is pushed in, it's closed off. Okay, that wind won't kill the bees, but it keeps them colder. If you put that slider in where it's supposed to be, the air can still get through for circulation, but it's not going to be nearly as cold as it might be otherwise. Accessibility, we talked about that. You should be able to get to it, and you should put it in such a place that the neighbor kid's not going to pop the top off in the middle of winter time to see what your bees aren't doing and do you an ill turn because of that. What does the inside look like? When you go into the winter, you should try to locate your bees in the middle of the box if you can. If you got less than a full box, you can do that because they're going to eat up for that food supply. And if you start them off on the right way, that's a good idea. How much food you need? 50 pounds plus. We say 2 deep supers is good. 1 deep super is more than 50 pounds, but here in Michigan, they seem to go through this quite quickly, so we're saying 50 pounds is good. Inner cover, the deep side down, don't worry about that so much. Top cover, you put a slant on it. Empty space. What happens if you've got 6 frames of honey and it's in a 10 frame super? I'll just put the 6 frames in the middle and keep the other ones on the outside to take up that extra space. If the bees do generate any extra heat, that will be a way for that heat to be saved in those combs as long as they can. So I usually say fill up the extra space so that it's there. Weak colonies, they're not going to make it. Sorry about that if you got real weak colonies. You could put 2 weak ones together and you'd have 1 big weak colony. It's probably still not going to make it. So go ahead and try it and then just feel bad in the springtime because they didn't make it. But weak colonies usually don't. Fine tuning. Do you need to insulate? Chuck, do you insulate?
Top cover only.
Top cover. After do you insulate? No. Anne Marie, do you insulate?
Top cover.
Top cover. Ken, do you insulate? Kind of? Yep. Top cover? Okay. Melissa? Top cover. Okay. So don't have too many insulators here. 2 ways to look at that. It keeps the cold out, but it also keeps the cold in, right? Insulation doesn't make it warmer, it just keeps it whatever temperature it is right there. So if it's cold inside and you insulate it, it's still cold inside. But it may help you keep some of the out. So. Do you need to wrap it? Chuck, do you wrap? Ever do you wrap? Melissa, do you wrap? No? Ken, do you wrap? No? 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 Sometimes, okay. So I started out by saying you got to find a system that works for yourself. And to wrap or not to wrap is a question that you'll need to ask and answer. Chuck has a partial answer. Paul, Smingy, do you wrap yours? No. Snook, do you answer? No? Okay. Getting more no's than yeses on that. Do you need extra entrances? The bees need to get out during the wintertime to take a cleansing flight. They don't like to use the bathroom inside the hive, and so they need to get out and take a cleansing flight if they possibly can. They need a way to get out. And if the snow is higher than the entrance of the hive, that can create a problem. So it seems to be a good idea to have a second entrance up on top. I know not everybody does that. You do not, Jack. You do not. Jack, I don't, Jack does not. Do you, Jack? Upper entrance?
I insulate the top, yes.
You insulate no extra entrance. Anne Marie?
Oh, yeah.
Top entrance. Okay. Ken?
Yes.
No top entrance. Okay. So are you hearing something here? You have to figure out what works for you. I'm in the theory that a top entrance is good so the guys can get out. Do they like candy? Well, we just talked about candy blocks and fondant. We know the answer to that. Mice are cute. What's the problem? The problem is they get in there all winter and eat the honey just as well as the bees do. And the bees will eventually bother them enough that they'll die, and then they encase them in propolis so they don't decay and smell of the hive. Huh. And number 6, what do you do all winter without your bees? So you put it to sleep. That was really fast. I usually take much longer to do that, so I talk really fast. Connie, if I give this to you as a PowerPoint, can we put it on the web? I will do that. So if you were jotting things down, didn't get a chance to do it, we'll put this on the website too, and you guys can have it. Okay, now that's all theory, that's good. Let's get some real practice. Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. First, I have a quick video to show, and then we'll. Oops. I'm going to show a video presented by Dr. Jim Tu. He's the retired entomologist professor from Ohio State. He is nationally renowned for his beekeeping practices when he does do beekeeping, which is in Chuck's. If we can find it. And once we show his video. It's only about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to show a PowerPoint on my windbreak that I had great difficulty with, and then I re-engineered it to make it more sturdy. Let's see. Traffic can't get in. There's just something always in yours. Do you have any more USB ports in your computer? Well, Don's looking for that. We talked about insulated top covers, and I make my own covers. This is basically what it is. It's a top cover, regular plywood with insulation on it, and it fits right here. We put the metal covering over the top of it. Some people might build them so the insulation's on the bottom, inside. Of course, this one doesn't fit. If you don't have an insulated top cover, you could do that. You could put this on top of your hive and put your cover on top of it. It would give you insulation. I like this arrangement better because I get winter insulation and summer insulation. You don't get that sun beating down into your hive. It makes your bees beard. My bees very seldom beard because the hive stays much cooler inside. They talk about a top entrance. Here's a quick, easy, cheap way of doing one if you don't want to drill a hole in your box. You can put this on top. You have top entrance. But I don't like down top entrances in my boxes. They're down here, and you reach to grab the box, and you grab a handful of bees also. You get stuck. So I don't use that. I don't use top entrances. Who's going to help me?
There's a folder that says bee videos on the left side.
One thing I do that's kind of unique, most of these ideas, by the way, are not mine. They came from fellow beekeepers from the club. I think this might be one of Jack Hartman's inventions. It's nothing more than a shim with a window seat on the bottom.
Go back.
And I have 2 quarter-inch strips of wood in the front and back. And I filled this with 1.5 to 2 inches of cedar chips. It sits on top. The idea with the cedar chips is it restricts airflow so it's controlled. You don't have a fast flow of air going through. It's too cold for the bees, and wood chips help capture the excess moisture. When you have excess moisture in the hive, and you don't have an insulated top cover, you get the frost like here. Pretty soon the frost turn into icicles. You get a 40-degree day. The icicles strip onto the bees. That's what kills them. Okay. So when I use this arrangement, I do not use my inner cover. I don't need to. This is restricting the purpose of my insulated top cover for winter. So that goes to the garage in the winter. So the airflow in here comes off the sides. Remember, I've got a quarter-inch shim front and back. Comes off the sides. When you use your top cover, make sure it's spaced so you got a gap on each side. So the air can come up from the bottom and out the side, just like that.
Is that the method you use?
I use this method. Everything here is my method. It works. I lost 4 hives out of 16 last year. This is my slider. This is my invention. Not just slider, but this whole hole right here. Okay. In the wintertime, I don't clean snow off the landing board. I let it accumulate. Snow gets just high the landing board. Only time I clean snow off the hive, if it's forecast to be 30 degrees or warmer. Then I go out with my scraper blade and I just scoop it off like that. It's quick and easy with a scraper blade versus your hand. So the theory here is, with snow on the landing board, the air goes up through the bottom. And the slider is what holds in on the bottom of your hive here. If anybody wants to see these later on, they can come see them. It goes in the bottom of the bottom board. So I have one in here.
Chuck.
Let me take it apart and show you.
It's just reducing the flow from the screen.
What's the file? What's the file? It's,
So he's just putting a reducer on the screen volume.
Okay, here's the bottom board. Here's the slider I'm talking about. It goes like that. Okay. Some people don't use these. I was told that if you have your hives elevated like mine are, 2 feet off the ground, and it's 20 below, you get wind. The wind blows into your hive, it drives the bees to the top. That's all your underscores. This restricts the wind, but you still get the ventilation. And it works. Okay, I use my treatments. Everybody says, oh, you put chemicals in your hive. I do not. I use an Apigard. It's made from the thyme plant. My wife cooks with thyme. Okay. Randy Oliver from Scientific Beekeeping, he is nationally renowned for his beekeeping practices of being chemical free. He uses this. He says it's an essential oil. It's the oil of the thyme plant. When it's oil, it's called thymol. And this is thyme, a cooking spice, it's an herb. There's as much thyme oil in here as what's in a 1 pound bunch of fresh thyme. There's inner ingredients in here. It's a gel that suspends the thyme oil. So the way this works, you peel the cover back. Randy Oliver says put it on the bottom box. And they need room for everything, so I have a shim. And the shim allows access for the bees to walk across the top of it. Without the shim, the bottom bars from this next box would restrict half of the space of it. So this is my invention, so it's fully exposed to the bees. This will evaporate in 2 weeks. Randy Oliver says there is no measurable amount of thyme oil in the hive after this evaporates. It disperses and leaves the hive. If I always use this, I go in the spring with very strong colonies. So strong I sell nukes in the spring. So everybody says, what's a chemical? Don's presentation said chemical. It's not a chemical. That's why I stress that. Okay, what else here? Any bee supplier? Apigard? Apigard. Looks like this. Comes in a 10-pack.
Pass it around.
You can pass it around. Do not open it. The thymol is it's like mint oil. It's powerful stuff. Oh, for trichio mites. It's also said to knock down the population of not trichio mites, varroa mites. It also knocks down trichio mite. So it's twofold.
When do you put it in?
When? This time of year.
September?
You can use it any time of the year, but don't put it in when the bees are making honey. It will just taste your honey. It won't poison it, it just gives it a bad taste. I'm going to pass these around. This is my mouse guard. I got this from Stella back here, an old-time bee club member. Instead of buying mouse guards, I put nails in it, ½ inch apart. It keeps the mice out.
On that engine reducer, I put the other way around.
Yeah, let's make nails. I got some extra ones here. You should put your entrance reducers to the large opening. Entrance in tight, they will keep the mice from getting in.
Well, I read that you should turn around the other way.
You can't, I'll get to that too.
Okay.
Okay, so it goes in like this time of year. Okay, after it gets cold, around Thanksgiving or even before, you put it to the small hole. But upside down, like he was explaining. The reason being, during the winter, the bees are constantly dying off. Remember, you want to winter with ball bees like this. Come spring, the ball's more like that. So as the bees accumulate on the bottom dead, if it would turn like this, the entrance is blocked. They can't get out. Turn it like this, they get a fighting chance of getting out. Okay? So sometime in the winter, on a cold day, go out to your beehive. I got a small hook here, and pull this off. It's going to be frozen in place, and rake out the dead bees. Okay, you're going to get a pile of bees like that coming out. You're going to say, oh, my hive died. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know. So you keep raking them out until no more bees come out. And then put this back on, same way, upside down. If you do it on a warm day, when the bees are doing a flight, they'll be all over you. Okay. I haven't had a bee sting me in the winter. I think they're a little bit too chilled to sting, but still it's kind of aggravating. To me it is. Okay, feeding. They talked about feeding bees this time of year. You can use a big feeder like this. I have floaters. If you don't use floaters, the bees will drown in the sugar syrup. 2 to 1 this time of year. This goes on the very top of your hive. They can eat a gallon of sugar water up in 1 to 2 days. You have to keep killing it. When I feed sugar water, I put some fumigillin in it. I think it's a half a teaspoon per gallon. I could be wrong. I put honeybee healthy in it. Another essential oil. Bees like honeybee healthy, and it's got some medical properties, for lack of a better term, for them. It keeps them healthy, in other words. Fumigillin B. This knocks down the nosema. Don covered that. If you don't have one of these, and all you have is an entrance feeder, do not feed them by the entrance. You'll feed the whole neighborhood. Put them inside the beehive, get 2 or 3 if you have them. Put a box around it. Put your cover on it. Just feed your bees, not the neighborhood. They will empty one of these in a half a day. Put 2 or 3 in there. The emergency feed method.
Are you doing that right now?
Yeah.
Or do you do that like?
I like to feed after frost.
Pardon?
I like to feed my bees after the frost. This time of year, they're still bringing in nectar from goldenrod and such, and they don't have much taste for it. There might be a few bees, but after the frost, they'll be covered over that feed. Here's the sugar block we're talking about. Make them now. Have them ready for February. When you make them, right now, they'll have some moisture in them. I'm in these Monday, and I can still feel the dampness in it. So make them, let them dry out. They will reabsorb moisture after you put them in from the condensation from the bees. But they can still eat this when it's rock hard. When you take this out in the spring, it'll be all gnawed down like a rat chewed on it. They don't eat from one side to the other. They just eat into it like a termite.
Where do you put that?
On the very top. Let me read some of my hive a minute. One box of frames here to cut down some weight. Maybe same frame hives. I have built up the 3 boxes. So I don't have to feed. I got a half a box of honey here and 2 full boxes of honey here. I usually have honey to harvest in April. Okay, this is my my cedar chip tray goes on top. I don't use the inner cupboard. So when you check your bees, when it's cold out, take off my top cover, scrape beside my cedar chips. If I can feel warmth, my bees are alive. If I can see a few bees at the top, that's fine. If all I see is bees, you gotta put a sugar block in. Even though I have 100 pounds of honey in here, they're at the very top. They're not gonna go back down. At that point, you just real quickly put the sugar block in. Just like that. Go back and watch it put off me. An alternative feeding method, instead of this, or the entrance reducer, you can make yourself one out of a hole, like this, punch a bunch of small holes in the bottom. And this probably holds maybe half a gallon, 2/3 of a gallon of sugar syrup, 2 to 1. You can still make honeybee healthy and fumigillin in it. It's recommended. A feeder like this will drip a little bit. The weight of the honey or the syrup will make the plastic give in a little bit. So it's going to drip a little bit, but the bees can usually eat those drips up as fast as when they're dripping. Again, they'll eat this up in a day or two. It's funny, you can feed this day after day. You can put 4 or 5 gallons in there, but you only end up with a gallon of stored food.
How long do you feed that your bees?
How long do you feed the bees?
Until they quit taking it.
Until you quit taking it.
Okay, that usually happens when it's too cold for them. I would say Thanksgiving is when they quit for good. I would say more like first, second week of November, they'll quit taking it. They're getting to be too cold to be that active. They're starting to cluster up. The cold is finally infiltrating the hive. It's finally as cold outside as when it is inside. The first part of the late fall, it's still warmer in here than it is outside. So we have to kind of think about the physics involved. If you don't have sugar blocks made up, and your bees are at the top, you can use the mountain camp method. And all that is a piece of newspaper. You get a cup or two of granulated sugar. Try to keep it on the newspaper so it doesn't go off too bad. And spray some water on it. Just enough water so the sugar stays intact. If you don't spray it, some bees will carry the sugar particles out one by one. They will consider it a foreign obstacle in the hive. If you solidify it for them, they'll accept it. Okay, so there's an emergency method. Mel Disselcombe recommends putting something like this underneath the sugar block. I forgot to mention that. Reason being, as the bees eat the sugar block, sometimes small chunks become disengaged from the main block, and they can fall down between the frames. And that obstructs the work of the bees, raising brood in the early spring. It can hit the queen and kill the queen, things like that. Okay, I think next and last is wrapping the hive.
Question, Dr. Prager.
The bucket, is that, how do you put the bees underneath it?
Let's go right up to the frame like this. Up here, upwards, just like that.
Oh,
Okay. If you want, you could get I would recommend getting a couple of strips of wood, even 1/4-inch wood, and have it slightly suspended above. These little holes here, if it's touching something, it may induce it to drip quicker. Now, looking at this right now, those holes aren't touching the top bars there, but of course, once it's full, it might give in a little bit. Okay.
So you keep the Avogard in there all winter?
You can, the commercial guys do. Like I said, that disperses usually in 2 or 3 weeks. I recommend taking it out, primarily because it obstructs the traffic flow of the bees.
So you put it in after 21st, just after 21st.
Yeah, right now. Okay. supposed to be in the hive if it's 50 degrees or warmer. Okay, it needs that warmth to evaporate. Okay, if you put it in Thanksgiving, it's going to stay in there all winter. It won't evaporate on them. So it's the evaporation effect of the gases from it that affect the mites. Okay. And lastly, I'm doing this real quick. I did this presentation last night in Kalamazoo, and I spent an hour doing it. I went more greater detail. But you're not missing anything. We covered everything about it. Okay, I do rent my hives. Last year, there was a couple guys in the audience said they don't rent their hives. I wonder how many hives they lost. This is more like insurance. You know, we might have a regular winter, we might have another polar vortex. If we have a polar vortex, I'll be tickled to death when I rent my hives. When I cut these out, I pre-measure everything, I pre-fold it, because when you wrap them, it's usually October, November. When you wrap them, you don't have to wrap them in, but that's what I do. And I've got a system to it. The west is to my back. Pre-folded is real simple and easy. It fits right in. This leading edge is facing away from me. The wind's hitting my back. The wind can't hit this because most of our wind's from the west. It's not going to hit it and rip it off. And I'm not going to staple it. I'm just going to show you how that works. So when I staple my hive up, I try to cover all my cracks in the hives, between all the supers, between my cedar chip box on top. If you have the top entrance with a hoe, you want to punch out the tar papers with a hole still there and tack on a target. Because that black hole is going to match right in with the tar paper. The bees fly out for the cleansing flight, and they can't find the front door no more. They have one here, but they came out up here. So you nail this in place, they can find their entrance again. It's a good target for them. Okay, questions? Ladies first.
How do they get out if you have that tarp all the way around in January, February, and there's snow covering the bottom entrance?
That's okay.
How do they get out?
The tar paper is to cover that entrance up. I'm trying to keep the tar paper above the entrance. This little area here is going to keep the tar paper up.
But what if there's snow over your entrance? You have to go out and sweep it.
There's my ventilation right here.
But the bees get out for the cleansing fight.
You have to watch the weather forecast.
So then you have to go out and use something, like take the tarp off.
I used to check my hives every day in the winter. It's part of my exercise routine. Walk out to them, look at them, make sure they're still upright.
The entrance is still open at the bottom. The tarp does not close that. So the entrance is there and he cleans it up every day.
The sprinklers.
So they still go in and out from the entrance in the front.
No, this is our regular entrance that they use in the winter. Our paper doesn't cover it up, only the snow does. Let the snow accumulate, so when it's going below, we have an east wind, it's not blowing in. It's more difficult for the wind to blow this direction and go up. I'm sure some does, but most of it's going right past it. But there's still airflow going up through the boxes and out the top through the cedar chips.
I guess my question would be, your face and how you've got this laid out. You have a super, followed by another super, followed by a utility box. Now, when you add the shim, you will add the shim between the first and second supers.
That's right, that's for the Epigard. That's right, you want it down here. It's Randy Oliver's recommendation. I think Epigard says up high, but we want it down here.
Okay,
We have time for the video or not?
Yeah, we can run that and call it good.
I would rather show the video on the snow
Pardon?
I better show show my video on my snow fence.
Connie is suggesting putting it online, the video, is that
Okay,
possible?
we'll do that.
Yeah, okay, we'll put the video on snow fence
It's
online.
PowerPoint. I can go through it less than 5 minutes.
Okay, and then, yeah, we get
If I can find
five.
it. I need to get back to my computer again.
Go to Chuck's FD.
That's it.
Right there,
You want the winter fence?
at the top.
Are you like a snow fence?
Is it the wind guard?
Yeah, keep going.
All the way at the
There it
bottom?
is.
Double click.
Where's your clicker, Don?
Up on top there.
Okay.
Yeah, try to close the lights.
We're gonna get the lights a minute. This is probably year 2 or 3 for me. I didn't use the snow fence.
These are your bees in your backyard.
My bees in my backyard. And when I first started, we had some nice mild winters. Didn't have any problem. I think I lost 1 hive that year. I had a nuke, that's I got it all straight here, my little nuke right here. I had even 2 boxes on top of it. All my hives are 2-box hives here. It's a nuke that died. So I put up a temporary snow fence. I think this is a year or 2 later. You notice I've already switched over to 3 deeps. And the snow fence, see this, not called snow fence, it's a windbreak. It's this regular fence post with a metal bar across the top with a tarp over it. I put rocks to hold it down. Here's a better picture of the rocks and the bricks. And I ran out of tarp, so I got a blue tarp. And it don't work. The wind catches it and it rips it right off the top bar. You can see the stones at the bottom. This is a couple years ago, I started putting regular fence posts in. And I grew up in Kentucky, so that's a horse fence. That's what I'm used to seeing now in Kentucky. So I wanted something attractive in the summertime. Better picture of it. And in winter, I hang my tarp over it. I put grommets in it. I put nails through the grommets and bend them over. On the bottom part of the tarp, I have a rope. I pull it tight and ties it each end post. And that's what works. This is an old previous picture. Oh, I'm going to show this to you. This is one of my experiments. Instead of using a wrap, I put masking tape around all the cracks. Again, the hives made it. It didn't work. It was a mild winter. That's my old fence. That's part where it blew off. That's the old fence also. Thanksgiving Day, November 22. Bees were out. January 12, 2013, the bees were out. We didn't have that luxury 2014. Okay, here's a more recent picture. These hives are 2 feet off the ground. You can see how deep the snow was. I still have ventilation in the bottom from the little hole in the slider. I let the snow accumulate. I only clean the snow off if the weatherman says it's going to be 30 degrees or warmer. That snow gives me insulation. You see how deep the snow is? I lost 4 hives. 2 were in a remote yard that didn't have winter coverage, and 2 were here that were 10-frame hives. All my 8-frame hives survived right here. I only believe in 8-frame hives. I think with all of the pests that bees currently have, they need to be in a smaller area to maintain their health and warmth. Okay, this is how I rake the bees out on a cold day, 20 degrees or colder. I take off the incense reducer and I rake them out. And this is pretty much normal what you'll see. There's a whole lot, but that hive made it. You would think that'd be the whole hive of bees. It still made it. I was surprised. I thought for sure it was dead. I was kind of heartbroken. Another day we were out on a nice day. You can see some of the brown and stuff in here when I raked it out. That's probably just dirt from the hive. I don't see any cleansing like residue, so to speak. This is one of my experiments. A hive in the same yard as by my creek. I let the woods shed the hive. I let the snow accumulate, but the hive didn't make it. I think it's because it's in a too shady of a spot, even for the winter time. We need the sunny warmth to heat that tar paper up. This is a small hive beetle. In my opinion, not a problem in the winter time. That's the problem, the tracheal, the throat mite. That's my white shoveling snow. She loves to shovel snow. I got a nice snow blower. She won't let me use it. She wants to shovel herself.
Okay, Chuck will be available for more discussions after the meeting.
Come to my house.
And we just want to move ahead, Jack Hart, kind of do a little bit more talking in the same direction. You heard Chuck mention something about cedar chips, cedar shavings several times. Jack, I think, is going to address that issue as well. So.
I got my stuff ready today. Don, from the usual fashion, called me well ahead of time. 10 o'clock this morning, he said, Jack, you're going to be on the program. He was showing this. One more thing I'm going to try this year. I've been using this a long time. And every beekeeper ought to have a couple of these. I mean, they've got many uses. You're going to move a hive, put these on top, take them down, you've got ventilation. They're just, what I want to try this year, I'm going to put 2 half-inch holes in the bottom here. And then put a piece on the out front here and down for a backer. For a top entrance that will be backer. That's just a thought that I'm going to try this year. That'd be like. This one here, small holes here, there'd be back holes a little bit.
Jack,
That's just another.
can't hear you. Louder.
I'll try.
There.
Okay. What I've done for about 4 or 5 years now has been putting the cedar shades on top of the hives and covering it with an all plastic bag, but primarily using a piece of fiber to insulate it so that bees give off this moisture. It comes and it's going to collect on cold surface. Cold surface is the wood or the top board as it is. This, by using the chips in it, that baffles some of them. But the chips, I believe, and several others do, have some effect on the mites. You know, you used to always have a cedar closet or cedar chest to keep clothes and stuff in, to keep the moths and stuff out of. I believe it has an effect on that. So anyhow, this is an economy model, making an insulated top cover. This is all it is. These, again, you ought to have, everybody ought to have some. Put this on there, and now. That'll make you, give you the breathing, give you everything you need to just do with what you've got right now. Now, for years, I've been, several years, using a cover like this. It's got this cedar chips in, this is it. I take off the regular inner cover, which is what most people have. And then take that off, put this on here with the chips in it. This is the insulation. I made covers like this. Now, it's expensive and it's not worth it. I'm not promoting it, I'm just saying that's what it is, and this is what I learned from it. I had a series of pictures I have, but putting this on here in the winter time when it's cold, you saw the snow piled up on the cedar, there'll be a small area right in the center here where the snow is melted right down. There's that much heat that comes up out of that little tube. But on the more interesting, on the other side, there's a patch of ice from this moist air coming up out of that tube, collecting on there and just freezes it. Then as soon as it gets warm, it melts and slides down. That's why I had it tilted on a slope. so the moisture runs out to that side. A lot of trouble, but it was a learning experience, so I don't. What I found out is, this will do the same thing. You tilt your regular cover, but you need a piece of insulation of some sort, because otherwise it's going to be cold. The next thing is I covered it with a plastic bag. Now, he uses the paper, I did the plastic bag just because that's what it's so cheap and easy. My dad taught me that if you want to find an easy way to do a job, you send a lazy man out to do it, and then you watch him. So I tried it. This is my cover. This cover on that way or this one. One thing you got to do though to get the ventilation. Good night. Okay, now all that moisture that comes out collects on the ceiling. The wind can't blow through the cracks in it in place. I fasten it down with these colored tack things. Go around and stick them all down, tie it down, hold this under. And we were talking about ventilation. These are bivalve. You can see that plastic there, that's a shell. I've learned that the screen bottom board is great, but you can't leave it open all the time. I have trouble with them not building comb in it. You don't like to use it, it's too much light. I have mine up like chuck things up on the block. And that light just keeps it from building up. So I keep that in there pretty much all year long, but I pull it out partly. But the biggest advantage I have for that in there, I can take a whiteboard. I have the white stuff and slide it in when I want to do a mite count, or you can slide it in there, you can see what the bees are dropping. After you've done it a while, you can judge real good what's going on in the hive just by a 12 or 24-hour test of it. You can count the mites that fall down. But anyhow, because this is room there, then there's always room for air. When this has been like that, the snow never packs back in it. It piles up out here, but there's always an airflow. Air assessed up through it and you come out the top. That's what carries the moisture out. And the moisture is going to be one of your biggest disadvantages in the hive. It molds, it makes the bees, you know yourself, it's much easier to stay warm if you're dry than it is if you're moist and wet. So that.
You've got like a stat in the center there. Can you look at that again? You have a little like PVC.
Okay.
Talk to us about that.
Okay, that was my first expensive venture to do what this does, a water bottle and a piece of tube ventilation does. But what that is then, this is the chips, and then again, this is that box that every beekeeper needs to have a couple of for everything he's doing. If you want, you've got two sides, turn it over, we'll talk about that later. Anyhow, what this is, it goes in there, and that's before, then you have chips in it. Shake it around. Probably should do that out there. But fill it, the chips are set in a bag. This is how we cut, how I get them in that. Farmer Fleet has them, they're just bedding.
Have a conversation with you sometime about.
You alluded to taking things, I take the joints. You saw these tapes?
Well, I used to
I've done a couple for free and it's not very good.
Go around.
I used to. I found out if you use tar paper, it serves the same purpose.
Well, when I do this, I have a problem. If you've got a slot in there, an opening in it, they'll get out and there'll be a lot of bees in it. So I just go around it to hold it together.
No, I had that problem.
So, anything? Quickly, you have a
Top exit.
I never have. I have not. But I'm to the point now that that's where I talked about putting them in, making a hole down here, So you can see that, that's raised up there. This is up on top of the hive above the frames. So I want to go with 2 half-inch holes, probably a half-inch apart. And then a spacer there and a piece out in the front. So the wind doesn't go directly in, but they can come out and go down and go out. So how it's going to work.
One last question.
Jack, you got 2 different models there, your first model and your new model, they're stacked, or do you have 2?
She's asking about
No,
why.
this is the one I was looking for a minute ago. This, I learned to tape them together because you tip them over, the cover falls off in the shape. This is full of the shavings.
Okay, so that's your first model, or is that what you use now?
That's what I use now. I've used them this way now for, this one's 4 or 5 years old. And I've been using it. But now I replace it with this. It's so much cheaper. Just this cover.
When you make these, all you need is window screen.
Yep.
Fiberglass, cheap as you can find. The bees won't chew through it. Before you put on your hive, shake it and set down all the small stuff. See it coming out. If you don't, it's going to go in the hive and you'll see the bees carrying it out.
It'll be all over the front, but they clean it out and then,
And you can save this, use it for smoker fuel the next season.
yep. We'll use it the next year.
Okay, that was the last question. Jack and Chuck will be available afterwards. I know you're holding your head.
I was just saying, your comment, I use that cover all summer long. You know, it's just straight insulation.
And you can.
I just raked it back a little bit to have some ventilation.
Doug's comment is that he leaves the cedar shavings on all summer. It's permissible to do, and you can do it that way as well. I'm trying to speed this along. We've got a big thing outside too, and I want to give Anne Marie a little bit of time. We've given you some theory, given you some practical wrapping and whatnot. Now we're going to have Anne Marie on the other side of this discussion, and I'll sit down.
It won't be very long. So, let's say this is my hive, my summer hive. Before I start anything else, I need to have full disclosure. I have 5 winters under my belt. Nothing like these 2 guys. I don't have that many hives. I have 8 hives altogether. And I started with only 2 the first year. So, whatever I say is with a grain of salt, I guess, but it's just the way it's worked for me, and I started to kind of develop my own little thing. I guess I'm kind of looking at nature in a slightly different way. The other thing is that these guys are either retired or men with lots of tools. I'm a woman who works full-time. I have a young kid that I have to bring to soccer and swimming and this and that and the other thing, and I am terrible with my hands. So the idea of building all these boxes and doing all this stuff, I mean, it looks great to me. It obviously works, but it doesn't work for me. I cannot do that. My husband wants nothing to do with my bees, so I can't even count on him either. So basically, I've developed the 3-way system. It's going to take 5 minutes, and I'll be done. Oh yeah,
What I was talking about.
yeah, I have to say, full disclosure, my husband wants nothing to do with my bees and won't build me anything, but I did find somebody who will basically build anything I want. So my Randy over there builds everything I want. And he's the one who's going to build the one thing that I needed built for my winter thing. So I go to my hive. This is my summer setup with my screen bottom board. Most of my hives are screen bottom boards. I think I have one that's not. So it's screen bottom board. It's open usually in the summertime. It has whatever I think I need in order to go through the winter. Some are a little bit shorter, some are a little bit higher. I usually have 1 deep, 2 or 3 supers, medium on top. And then I always have an inner cover in the summertime as well as my insulated cover, summertime and wintertime. So this is my summer hive. I have 2 hives here on the Holland campus, 2 hives on the Allendale campus, 4 hives on the at a farm where I have a CSA, and I have 2 hives at home. So I'm all over the place, and I have a small little Prius. So when I go to do my winter thing, I get out of my car, and for each hive, I have 3 things. I have some sort of a shim frame, whatever, that Randy builds me. I have a candy board that you can all go see right after this how to make, which I make the same way that Randy does. I actually make it at his house. He's got all the stuff, it's great. And I also use the entrance reducer as my wonderful mentor showed me how to, with just the little nails in there for the mice guard. And so I get there, I install my mouse guard the same way that Chuck has showed you. I put my little frame here, I put my inner cover off, or I leave it on sometimes, it doesn't really matter. Put my frame. I don't know if you see my frame. My frame is a bit different, but it is akin to what Jack was talking about. It's shimmed. So it's a 2-inch, but I have shimmed. Actually, my husband did make those pieces, I have to say. But from now on, Randy is just going to build it for me like this. So it's shimmed and it has basically about an inch difference, thicker on one end than on the other. And you can see that I have a huge entrance. And I basically install this at the top, like this. I put my sugar at the top. Why do I put sugar? I don't do the feeding in the fall. We have plenty of honey. I leave a lot. The reason why I do the sugar is mainly for moisture control, because this candy board is really dry, and basically when the bees, shiver and keep themselves warm in there, they of course kind of use a lot of energy. That creates some water vapor. That goes up. I have an insulated cover that makes it so that the condensation doesn't necessarily accumulate, but still there's a lot of moisture there. By having my thing shimmed, the water runs in the back, number one. And number two, my candy board just kind of uses some of that moisture and basically absorbs some of that moisture. So I have moisture control here, moisture control there, and moisture control there. As Don had pointed out, it's not the cold that will kill the bees, it's the moisture. Has anybody ever gone camping in the wintertime? It's an exercise in moisture control. You get wet, you get cold. It's the same thing for the bees. And personally, I don't go and wrap everything. I leave a huge entrance at the top. I never close my bottom entrance. I'm a huge believer of airflow and ventilation. One of the reasons is because whether your door is slightly ajar at the basement in the first floor of your house, and you have a crack open in the window at the top all the time, 24/7, it doesn't matter if it's all the way open or not, it's going to get cold in there, no matter what, no matter how much insulation you have in your walls. And so to me, it doesn't make any difference. I'm not trying to keep my bees warm, I'm trying to keep them dry. So the wind is an issue, I agree, so we have like windbreakers as well. But oftentimes I'm like even beside a forest or some woods in the back, something, or one of them I do have a windbreaker. So for me it's all about moisture, so I have a couple of ways to do that. I put this here and I walk away. I don't treat, so I don't count for mites. I don't want to really know. I do know if I lose if I do lose a hive to mites, I know I will lose it early on in the wintertime normally. If I lose later on in the wintertime or in the spring, I know it's usually feed, or sometimes it's something different. And when he says, are they dead or are they not dead? You don't know. Well, I know because the only thing I do in the wintertime, I don't do anything else, no other maintenance. I don't even clean up the bottom because they have the top to go in and out. But I do go visit my hives at least every couple of weeks, and I go and I put my ear to the box, and you can hear them. You know if they're here, you know if they're here, you know exactly where they are when you put your ear to the box. So I just go and I make it count all winter long. And last winter, I basically lost 22% of my hives if I count the amount of time that it took. One early on in the fall, which I believe was because of mites, and then one very, very, very late in the winter. I think it was like beginning of April, and I couldn't believe that they didn't wait one more week. I think that they could have made it. But and that was it. The rest of them were all alive out of 9. So I thought that was not so bad, and I'm going to try this again. I don't wrap it. I don't do anything. My shim, my candy board, and my entrance adhesive. That's it.
There are probably no questions after that one, right? The rest of the meeting's kind of informal. Randy's out there. He's got his cooker cooking, and he's going to put together some sugar blocks and answer questions. There'll be a lot of good dialogue out there happening on the porch at the entrance. And at the same time, you're invited to inspect these more closely. Chuck and Jack, if you guys want to hang around and answer questions, that's good too. So just take advantage of the resources that are happening right now here and there for the rest of the evening. So.
Please make sure you grab yourself a nice coffee And thank you very much to Melissa, who brought all the treats for you tonight. We have donut holes and cookies. Please help yourself to a snack and a coffee and water.